Drugs and soda. Sugar and drugs. America. Hello everyone and welcome back to This Day in History, where we talk about history and stuff. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe because I put out new videos every single week and it helps me a whole bunch. Now, let's get to the action. Today's date, August 28th. Let's start out in 1862. So, thinking that the Confederate Army was retreating because he sees them change position, Union General John Pope is convinced that they're retreating, so this would be a good time to attack. Fortunately, they weren't retreating, they were just changing position, so there were massive casualties on both sides, and it became the Battle of Groveton. That's quite the work mistake. It's not quite sending an embarrassing email to the wrong person. Now let's do a hop, skip, and a jump to another blockhead. This time, 1938. The first degree is given to a ventriloquist dummy, Charles McCarthy.
Yes, that's why we're here. Oh, is that so? Yes, because we shared a fascinating moment in his life. Yeah, no names, Durgan, no names. Yes. She may be a grandmother by now. Yes, I.
He was Edgar Bergen's little dummy, and he was given the degree of Master of Innuendo and Snappy Comeback by the Dean of the School of Speech at Northwestern. Can you imagine, I paid all this money to go to college and all I had to do was just let someone stick their hand up me and make me talk and I could have gotten a master's? So Edward Bergen was actually a pretty huge deal. He's Candace Bergen's dad, if you want to know, the lady who gets really mad in Miss Congeniality. Anywhoozin, he was a huge deal. He did TV, he did radio, and he even had a 55-minute show with Charles McCarthy. It's just crazy to me that that was entertainment. He had a dummy, and that was a 55-minute show that people were crazy about. And he was even sponsored by Coca-Cola, which, let's go on a little tangent about Coca-Cola, shall we?
Looks like somebody's been doing some shopping. And that means somebody's been doing a lot of walking and getting more and more worn out. Because by the time a woman assembles a complete spring wardrobe, she's generally covered a lot of floor space in a lot of stores. So it's little wonder that smart shoppers everywhere take time out to pause and refresh. And where else but in the fountain where they serve ice-cold Coca-Cola?
So Coca-Cola was actually designed based on a medicine. Now, this dude didn't actually want to sell medicine, he just wanted to make money. So he took Coca and Cola, which is cocaine and caffeine, put it together and made it a drink. Originally it was in wine, but they were like, yo dude, you can't be selling wine, that's not good. So then he just put it into a carbonated beverage, which is now Coca-Cola. But yeah, that was entertainment back then, which is kind of crazy, although considering how weird entertainment is, look at this, you're watching this video of me talking, and I'm talking by myself in my bedroom, and this is entertainment. In 1963, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom took place at the base of the Lincoln Memorial. Now, you may know this for a little speech that was delivered, the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. Now, we're all pretty familiar with Martin Luther King Jr., so I figured why not hit you with some fun facts that you might not have been aware of. Like the fact that he went into college at the age of 15. He skipped grades 9 and 12 and boom, went to college and graduated with a degree in sociology and also became an ordained minister. So the name Martin Luther King Jr. is pretty snazzy, but it's not as snazzy? Mike King. National Mike King Day. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? Well, Michael was Martin's original name. His dad only changed it because he went to Germany, was really inspired by Martin Luther, and decided to change his name and his 5-year-old son's name, which I think was for the best, because Martin Luther King Jr. definitely has some power behind it. Now, a fact that really will blow your mind, at least it blew my mind, is that this wasn't his first speech in Washington at the base of the Lincoln Memorial. Turns out he was there 6 years earlier in the Pilgrimage for Peace about voting rights. So he was basically like, yo, give us the ballot, except much, in a deeper register and also deeper spiritually and more meaningful. But how freaking cool is that? Dude was just killing it from day one. Totally misspoke. It was the Prayer Pilgrimage for Freedom. And I'm not even on any Coca-Cola right now. And the crazy thing is that there were between 15,000 to 30,000 people there, and yet I don't remember ever learning about this. Also, Home Dude has his own street cred because he was imprisoned nearly 30 times, always for things like civil disobedience. Also, he survived an assassination attempt. So basically, he was in a department store signing copies of his book. A lady comes up to him, says, "Hey, are you Martin Luther King Jr.?" He says, "Yes," just thinking, "Oh, another fan. I would love to sign this copy of book that I have made." And she's like, "Oh, I've been looking for 5 years." Takes a 7-inch letter opener and plunges it into him. Misses his aorta by like an inch. He has to go into surgery, and the doctors say that a sneeze would have severed his aorta and he would have died. Like, how have we never learned about this? Is that not insane? Like, can you imagine you're just signing copies of your book and someone asks about you and they plunge a freaking letter opener into you? Like, what? In 2005, Hurricane Katrina reaches Category 5. They decide to open the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans as an emergency refuge for people who need it. Now, Category 5 is the strongest of the categories for a hurricane, and it might be kind of hard to wrap your mind around what that means exactly, so I found a video from a news broadcast that'll kind of explain it a little more.
Catastrophic damage, Category 5, which is Irma, with winds of 157 miles per hour or higher. This one has winds of 185 miles per hour. You can see total devastation, catastrophic damage with extreme winds. That's why it is so important to evacuate people.
Now, the kind of messed up thing about living in the southern states is I used to live in Florida, and I know that people during hurricanes would kind of take it lightly. Like, they would take shopping bags and just use them as like a parasail to skid on the water. They would take their skid boards and go on top of the water and use the bags like to propel themselves forward. Sometimes people would like play in the gutters in the water, and like there'd be little like animals, because it's Florida, in the water that they would try to catch and stuff. But it's really serious. So unfortunately, some people see these categories and they think, oh, there's no big deal. And unfortunately, it's how a lot of casualties happen and injuries, and it's just really serious, and I think that people need to take it a little more seriously, at least in my old stomping grounds. Now, in numbers alone, the damage was $125 billion worth. It was the costliest Atlantic hurricane ever. Now, if that's not enough to realize like how big a deal this was, the fatalities were 1,833 people, like killed by nature. To try to end on a little bit of a lighter note, Pepsi was also created on this day in 1898. A little bit of a fun fact, I guess, about them. They were bankrupt a bunch of times, and Coca-Cola was offered the ability to like buy them, but they were like, nah, like we're good actually, like we don't really want you. But hey, oh, look at that, a fun tie back to talking about Coca-Cola sponsoring, the Dummy Show earlier. Look at that, it all ties together. Drugs and soda. Sugar and drugs. America. That's gonna do it for today's episode, you guys. I hope you learned something new today. Which of these facts was the most surprising to you? I know personally the letter opener murder attempt definitely was news to me, so that was shocking. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe because I put in videos every single week and it helps me a whole bunch, and this is going to be a whole series. Subscribe.